My name is Ann Enos, and I'm so happy to be here. I am the new co-chair of the SABR Baseball Memories program, along with Joe Shaw out of the Cleveland SABR chapter. I'm with the Heman Delhi chapter here in Arizona. And we have a program that started about 2 years ago, but officially a year. Am I breaking up at all?
No, you're fine.
You're hearing me? Okay. So I've been a SABR member for about 9 years, I would say. My dad was in professional baseball for 8 decades. So he's long past, but I continue my interest in baseball and in history. And I learned so much from you folks. I am a retired registered nurse with a master's degree in community health nursing. And so this is a blend for me. I worked in neurology and neurosurgery and in home health and in retirement community, so in gerontology. So I've dealt with a lot of people with dementia. And so this is a good blend for me. And I've thoroughly enjoyed doing this program here in Phoenix. So I was at the beginning of the program when we started. There were only 4 of us, so you can start a program with, a limited number of people, but certainly the more you have, the better. But you just have to divide the roles, and you can always bring people in, but you have to have a key planning group. And really I would say one, but we can get into this later, into the details of how to start a program. But finding people who are passionate about this, who are committed, I think is helpful. Many people have personal experiences with a family member who has had dementia. But again, this isn't only for folks with dementia or Alzheimer's disease. For example, our VA program, John Leonidakis is working with vets that are wheelchair bound and are physically challenged. So there's opportunity anywhere, and we wanted to start slow because this was new to us. And that's what I would advise, don't get into, well, we'll do this here at this place, really just take it slow and easy. There's no rush. We were hit by the pandemic. So, we certainly hoped to be in person, but we had to pivot to Zoom, and it's working quite well, I think. So we can get into some details. So if you want to introduce yourselves and your team.
Sure. Great. Chris, you were the one that kind of started our interest in this, and I think you've met Ann. Would you tell her who you are?
Yeah, I'm Chris Moyer, of course, in the Colorado Springs area there. Dan and I both got a chance to see Ann during the Baltimore convention. Also met up with Joe as well. So that was a good opportunity to learn more about the program as just trying to find out more about this Baseball Memories program that was kind of had an interest in it, and just trying to learn a little more about it as this is developed. Dan or Ken?
Great.
My name's Ken Reed. I just think this is an awesome program. I think the stuff SABR's doing on the side that not many people know about is awesome and can grow. I have a little experience working with isolated seniors in nursing homes that really no one comes to visit. So finding those people that have sports interests like myself, it was a good way to kind of bring their spirits up and stuff. So I think I love the idea of targeting dementia and veterans, but I also think there's a lot of just isolated seniors in nursing homes that would love something like this as well.
Certainly, and they're also included for sure. And also with Zoom, I know that we have a lot of rural environments here in Arizona, and you do as well in Colorado. So Zoom is working to bring people from sort of the outer areas of the state. Yeah. Who else is next?
And before I get started, tell me about your dad. What did your dad do?
You'll have to read the book. No, truly, during the pandemic, I'm retired. So for me, this is a good thing to do because I am retired. But Lee Lowenfish, I don't know if you know him, is coming out with a book on April 1st. So please buy it. It's called The Endangered Species Major League Baseball Scouts. And I spent a long time with him. And the last chapter of his book is all about my dad. But he weaves all of the guys that he knew in baseball and other scouts. So it's been a fun time. So my dad signed with the St. Louis Cardinals at age 16. And he really wanted to be seen by scouts, loved baseball. So he entered into the Sporting News contest, where if you sold a number of subscriptions to the Sporting News, you would get an expense-paid trip to Ray Doan's All-American Baseball School. Well, we come from a little town in Massachusetts, and this started in, I guess, January. So, it's snowy, and he's on foot. My dad played semi-pro ball and so he worked with the boy, certainly, to get him going. But so he walked all around the Sojourner of Massachusetts, and he came in second in the country. So off he went alone by train to Hot Springs, Arkansas, where he was instructed by unbelievable people like Babe Ruth, Lon Warneke, Rogers Hornsby, Dizzy Dean, Charlie O'Leary. So that was his entrance into baseball. So he signed at age 17, left high school. And at any rate, he was released, probably, maybe, we don't know. Branch Rickey was involved with this when he had too many people in his system. Anyway, his first year in baseball was in 1939 with the Gloversville, New York. In 40, he went to a lot of baseball schools to get seen, then was signed by Burley Grimes and with the Brooklyn Dodgers. I could go on, but at any rate, he went into World War II, most of the teams were the St. Louis Browns, and then he went to the Baltimore Orioles, then the Kansas City Athletics, and then followed to Oakland Athletics, then he went to the Seattle Pilots, Milwaukee Brewers. This is scouting and player manager, minor leagues. Finally went to our home team, Boston Red Sox, and was with them for 30 years as their New England area amateur scout. So anyway, long story, but 90 years or 80 years in baseball. So I've learned a lot from people in SABR. He had his favorite player was Babe Ruth, of course. He actually spent a month as a co-instructor with the Babe down in Palatka, Florida in 1941 before the war. And he played in the war too. So, he was on Bob Feller's team at Newport, but he actually played baseball. He bowled with the Babe. The Babe Ruth took him bowling in Palatka, Florida, which is amazing. So Babe Ruth was his favorite player, and I have a special photo that I could share with you of my dad and my grandfather with Babe Ruth and Ray Doan. So that should be I don't know what pictures will be in the book, but it's been fun because Lee, has done some other research and wants to get his facts straight, certainly in a published book. So anyway, long story.
That's awesome. I bet he had some great stories.
He always said he had more stories than the local library. And that's the truth. So, he was fortunate to live his whole life and career in professional baseball, for sure. Yeah, and he got to see the Red Sox. The Red Sox were wonderful to us, and they took us to the 2004 and 2007 World Series. I was his nurse coming to him. So that was a thrill. And as we say in Boston, you can die happy.
What year did he pass?
He passed in 2014, December 2014. So he saw 2004. 2007 World Series. And
You learned a lot
our
of
bags were packed earlier too.
You learned a lot of baseball just by being around him, I bet.
Well, we didn't go to too many major league games, but he scouted the Cactus League for many years. So that's how we ended up in Scottsdale, Arizona. But, you know, mostly it was amateur. So high school, college, and certainly he got a lot of players out of the Cape Cod Baseball League. He's in their Hall of Fame, in fact.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyway.
I met your dad.
You did?
Yeah, I met your dad at the Cape. So I'm Dan Evans. I worked with 5 teams over a 42-year period. Had a lot of fun working in the game. Now I'm on the national board of SABR, and I'm the president of the Rocky Mountain chapter.
Yeah.
I met your dad at a Chatham Anglers game.
Chatham. Mm-hmm.
And I had a couple of really good friends there who scouted for me, and they wanted me to meet your father. And he was so much fun. He was telling us stories about how the Cape grew.
Yeah.
And somebody came over and talked to him about why is it free? And he was so much fun. But what I really
passed the hat there, right?
Absolutely.
50-50.
But I also wanted to tell you, your SABR chapter is named after my first boss, Roland Heeman.
Oh,
he's a Rhode Island boy and one of the really greatest human beings of my lifetime. But I also want to introduce my way better half, Kathy Walker. And Kath, why don't you explain to Ann and the others why this is important to you too?
So this is really interesting to me because I also was in health. I am in healthcare.
Yeah.
I know that you're a nurse, which I was so excited to hear. I'm a speech pathologist by training. I oversee a bunch of rehab programs at the VA hospital here in Aurora, Denver. But as my speech pathology background, obviously in the past, I worked with veterans with dementia, memory issues. I work with veterans all the time. It's my love. But I also am very interested in people that are isolated in healthcare who have issues that can't obviously get out. I also have a very strong interest in rural veterans. So I think that this all fits with an interest I have. So I'm excited to hear
excellent. Yeah.
So amazing. And I can't wait to hear how you roll this program out.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's hard to get in the VA. So having a contact possibly in the VA, and I don't know if your VA has a nursing home wing or facility. We do in Phoenix, but it's very difficult. And with COVID as well, you know, that changed the scene for everyone.
Yeah.
So we're Zooming right now. There are only a few programs that are in person, and Joe is working with a really innovative program called the Farrell Foundation in Cleveland, and they focus on it's with people with dementia, but a lot with the arts. So they'll do baseball related art, you know, whether it's card making or playing with baseball cards. So there are some private organizations that you might not know about, you know, in your area. Yeah. So that's, who else do we have? Do we cover everyone? Greg?
Yeah, I think we have everybody so far.
Good.
Ken described his background. Did Ken describe his background?
Yes.
Well, I don't know if he did exactly. He said he was into sports, but I see Oregon.
Well, I just talked, Greg, a little bit about why this is interesting to me, but I played baseball at University of Denver, and then I was on the Colorado Baseball Commission that helped bring the Rockies to town. My dad was a coach, so yeah, I've been passionate about sports and baseball in particular for a long time.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, well, you know, I'm 5 minutes from the Rockies training facility, so come on down, but it's 34 degrees here the next week. So, yeah, it should warm up in the week, but we're not used to this.
Yeah, we're going to be 4 below within the next 2 days. So, hey.
Yeah, I know.
It's all relative.
It is relative. Yeah. But my dad's best friend in baseball was, I don't know if you all know, Henry Peters. But he was the mentor for your Rockies general manager, former. What was his name?
Bob Gebhard.
No, another guy.
Dan O'Dowd.
Dan O'Dowd. Yeah.
Mhm.
So Hank was his mentor and he mentions that, but great friend of our family. And Hank Peters died a month after Dad. And it was, I mean, he was shaken by Dad's death. And then in a month, we heard that he had a stroke and passed in Florida. So it was kind of a horrible year that year. But yeah. So
well, are you able to hear me now better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well, I shut the other things down and I want to make sure that, oh, Joe's here too.
Oh, good.
Just a second. Let's see if I hit admit, but I'm not seeing him yet.
Come on in, Joe.
There. Hi, Joe.
There we go.
Hey.
Sorry I'm late, but when the boss who's paying you a salary and your consulting contract is up for renewal, you go with the flow, not go with the volunteers. So sorry about that. Somewhat sorry.
Sure. Joe, we've had, I haven't introduced myself yet, but I will. We have Chris Moyer, who may have met you at in Baltimore.
Yes, I remember that. Hi, Chris.
Dan, did you meet both Ann and Joe at Baltimore or not?
I did.
Well, I wasn't at Baltimore. I was sort of the follow-up caller.
Right.
Couldn't go, unfortunately.
Well, for Joe's, Dan's our president and on the National SABR board, and he's joined by his better half, as he calls her, Kathy Walker, who is part of the VA program and has some interest in serving veterans and isolated veterans and maybe disabled veterans. So that's a real plus here. We have
I would just say that we have an activity with the LA veterans, and quite frankly, we in Cleveland, and I believe I can say for others, view that as a growth opportunity for our program, getting more involved with the VA and so forth. And so that's great. That's great.
And Ken Reed just was talking. Ken was part of the Denver or the Colorado Baseball Commission that was helped bring baseball to Denver through the major league process, courted MLB and was successful in doing so, and has some baseball in his background. And then when Chris told me about this program, I'm on, as Chris and Ken are, on our SABR board here for the Rocky Mountain chapter. And I just flat out have an interest in doing something that our chapter can be supportive of other folks, not just not just about baseball, but about serving somebody else. And so I got fired up about that when Chris told me about this. Now I've listened to, I know that a little bit about you and Ann, being a Boston fan. And Ann, have you recovered from your accident?
Oh, you mean my fall?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
I had a minor fracture of the humeral head, but I'm still getting some PT, but I've done very well. So I'm functional now. Thank you for asking.
Sure. And then I know Joe's a Yankee fan, and
that's correct.
Joe, you worked both with the LA chapter and Cleveland chapter?
Well, the LA chapter had a void when John moved on, and he said Joe moved on to do other things within our program, John Leonidakis, and John asked me if I would be willing to take over for a while until we could find other people. So I became the interim leader for about 6 months, and we got two people, Mike Tierney and Mike Berry, who came on board as newbies and supported me and became integral parts of the program. And so with a fair amount of emotion because I became very connected with those people in that 6 months. I exited stage right. You may remember the Field of Dreams movie at the end when Shoeless Joe walks into the cornfield. That was my last picture that I showed them of another Joe walking into the cornfield and saying goodbye. So I will tell you, it was a very moving moment. But good things do go around. So they've called me out of the bullpen to do it again March 31st. So I'll get to see the California people at the end of March. So that's Greg, a long-winded how I got involved for a period of time with the LA chapter.
Your regular stint is with Cleveland.
Yes, we have 3, I'll call it swim lanes of activity. One with the Alzheimer's Association of Cleveland. We do Zoom activities every month. And in that one, I've gone through the training and been certified or qualified, whatever their verbiage is. So I interact directly with our participants and their caregivers in setting up the meeting, talking with them between the meetings, that sort of thing. So that's one session. We're about 2 years into that now. And the second swim lane, a more recent one, is with a group on the west side of Cleveland called the Farrell Foundation. It's a private organization set up by a Dr. Charlie Farrell, whose first wife had and passed away of Alzheimer's. And so he set up this foundation to help people and their caregivers in the early stages of Alzheimer's as well as dementia in general. The sad thing is he now has Alzheimer's. And but we do a actually we call it a hybrid session. It's primarily face-to-face, but we do have people who come in by way of Zoom on that. We have between 12 and 16 people there every other month. And then the third is with a facility called the local element of the national chain Brookdale. And that's all face-to-face. And again, there are about a dozen people there. We do that every month. And there are 3 of us who are sharing in the planning and conduct of those 3 different swim lanes of regular sessions. So we have pretty active effort here in Cleveland. And where, as I said before, hoping in 2023, we can begin an outreach to the Veterans Administration with big VA hospital in Cleveland, and perhaps there's something that we can come together with them on. We would like to do that.
Wow, it sounds like you're a very active group. How many people do you have participating from the SABR side?
Well, as I said, there are 3 of us, and at our in fact at 9 o'clock this morning, I had a meeting with one of the 3. Other of the 3, we're going to give an update on this project at our chapter winter meeting, February 4th. And the last, you will like this, I hope. The last slide in our deck will be a picture of an empty dugout with a sign, "Help Wanted," above it. So we're looking to bring more people on to bring them through the training program and get them, shall we say, prepared to take on roles and responsibilities as we hopefully grow the Cleveland program. And as we have some other partners throughout the country or potential partners expressing interest. And in the Zoom world, it doesn't really matter where you are, as long as you're available, committed, and motivated. So we're trying to grow our bench in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
So only 3 of you do?
Only 3. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
When you mention a training program, what does that entail?
Okay, we have the Baseball Memories program is in the early stages of instituting a training program that starts with observation, coming into a session, most likely a Zoom session, but it can be face-to-face, depending on the geography considerations, to just observe. And then maybe another observation, or if the person's comfortable, wants to continue, we try to weave them into being part of the team, actually preparing something and presenting something. And that probably is more than just 1 month. So they get some experience under their belt. And then the third element is we're working with the Alzheimer's Association to provide training. And this is the works in progress part, primarily some training modules that each person can watch at their convenience to learn something about what it means to interact with people with dementia and Alzheimer's, as well as their caregivers, and some kind of tips of the road, if you wish. And after they've taken those training modules, then we're going to convene a Zoom meeting, face-to-face type, or a Zoom meeting, virtual face-to-face, to actually have somebody from the Alzheimer's Association talk about what it's like interacting with people, that complements the module, the training modules, plus answer any questions. We did this sort of thing when we got started in Cleveland 2 years ago, and it helped the three of us immeasurably. So, and then we're going to put an element of continuous training into this. Probably every quarter, we'll look for a subject matter expert to convene the people who are really active in the group to share information and to address questions, that sort of thing. So we think continuous training, continuous learning is an important part of this for us as we learn how to do these sessions. And
was that program designed by the Alzheimer's Association?
Well, the modules are the training modules. We are asking them to provide them to us, but the remainder of the construct is our construct. We take the ownership for it.
Okay.
So, I mean, when we start building elements to use for the sessions, would be like if we brought in some baseballs from signatures from players in the past. I know Greg has shown interest with some baseball cards from the past, where we can look back at stuff from the 80s and 90s. Maybe would something like some baseball books on stadiums, or photos that have a lot of photos in it, to generate some interest in that? Would that work?
I would say from a Cleveland perspective, you are right on with everything. And we've actually done everything that you just said, save the books. We really haven't. We've extracted from books and shared pictures, shared, obviously not from books, but videos and that sort of thing. We actually, we've had baseball cards. One person at the Farrell Foundation actually gave us a baseball card of one of the former Cleveland Indians, Vern Fuller, and he's a friend of ours. He actually signed the card, and he's going to be making an appearance at one of the upcoming Farrell Foundation sessions. So you're spot on with everything, and part of what we're trying to do in this community is make it a sharing community and share our experiences, our packages, etc. It doesn't mean you have to do them this way, but at least from an experience standpoint, hey, here's what we did. It worked for us. This really didn't work too well here, etc. We want it to be a sharing community and learning from each other and growing based upon those learning experiences. So you're right on, and everything you just said.
Because my dad's going through some of this early portion of dementia. He actually turns 80 on Monday. So, but I had a chance to, I've gotten some baseball books because he grew up in Philadelphia, and, the idea of some of the, get a chance to look back at some of the stuff with the Go-Go Phillies and Shibe Park from the 50s and stuff like that. So, that was some of the stuff that he kind of enjoyed there. And then, about a couple months ago, he told me he was involved in Little League there in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania. And it was like 2 days before our November meeting. I ended up doing some research and found out he was one of 4 teams that started the Conshohocken Little League program in 1955.
Wow.
So it was I mean, we ended up seeing a team photo that the others have seen. So it was kind of I mean, you know, I had no idea about all this, and all of a sudden he started bringing back memories of some of his good friends on that team, who ended up being classmates of his through high school.
That's a cool thing. I mean, I think you've got something that could be a really nice topic for a meeting with the group, right? And his involvement in that. And we're going through something similar now. It's really kind of tugging at our heartstrings. One of the people in our Alzheimer's Association with early stage Alzheimer's lost his wife due to brain cancer last year, and we've been reaching out to him, communicating to him, and he's back with us. And he's been sending me pictures of when he played vintage baseball. And so he's going to be making a presentation at our February meeting about his experiences in vintage baseball. And he's been sending me notes he's been typing. And so the people we're trying to serve are now people, at least in this case, a person who's going to help others. That is an incredible feeling. You can't, I can't put into words how we feel about that, because the person is doing this on his own for helping others and sharing with others with the disease that he himself has. So to me, that's, we just feel so really good about that.
Hey, Joe, and is there some medical research that shows that this reminiscing in general, whatever the topic, not just baseball, is very helpful for people?
Well, two answers. One, if you get the Baseball Research Journal. Okay, the lead article in the last publication was a study that our group did, a statistical analysis, both so quantitative as well as qualitative, and presented some pretty convincing facts about the positive impact on both the participants and the caregivers. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that. The other is, Dan, did we share the longer sizzle reel with them?
The longer one, I'm not certain. I don't think we did. Yeah.
Okay, we should probably do that. Ann shared the 3-minute version, which is the marketing one, but there's a longer one that basically goes into the experiences, especially in Europe, and the impact of sports reminiscence in general, with people being interviewed and so forth, primarily about soccer and football, but I think it gets exactly to the points that you're raising. So the combination of our study and the extended sizzle reel, I think, gives pretty pervasive commentary, both quantitative and qualitative, of the positive impact. Yeah. And there was a Clemson study that has been published. We could share that with you about can Clemson football experiences improve the quality of life for people with dementia and Alzheimer's. And totally tongue-in-cheek, as an Ohio State fan, I'd say there's nothing about Clemson that improves anybody's quality of life. But we'll put that comment aside and say they seriously, they got positive results from their study also. We can share that paper.
Yeah, but much is anecdotal. And, you know, for me, when you get the comments from the caregivers and the participants that, you know, like in Cleveland, one gentleman was depressed. I don't think I'm going to go to that Zoom meeting. He went, and then he said, I'm so glad, I feel better. And they also tell us that they feel better for the whole day and maybe a few days, and they can't wait for the next program to begin. So you know, there are studies certainly, but just hearing the comments from the participants is very rewarding.
There's research in speech pathology that talks about reminiscence therapy, and the outcomes about that for quality of life and interaction with family members. There's an increase in output for communication that occurs, so it's a positive thing. So it doesn't necessarily change the outcome of the dementia trajectory, but it does increase interaction with family members and caregivers, which is a huge, significant change when you're looking at quality of life for the person and their caregiver.
Right. We're looking at quality of life for sure.
Yeah, I think we have a subject matter expert who works with us, Dr. Jay Thomas, and he made an interesting comment early on, and as we were doing this study, he said, you know, the scientists among us always say you got to have data, and he said that's absolutely right. But as soon as they look at the data, then they'll quickly say, well, what did the people really say? What did they say? What were the qualitative comments? We need to hear those too.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It was really kind of fascinating that, and the balance of both the numbers and the comments, we think are pretty persuasive argument.
What is the genesis with SABR? Are you two the very first ones to bring this to
No,
SABR?
not at all. It goes back to 2015, a gentleman in Central Texas by the name of Jim Kenton. I've never met Jim Kenton, but he's kind of a figure of early stage leadership. He created not one, but multiple sessions that involve the SABR chapters in trying to help people with the early stage dementia. So he actually was instrumental in developing the playbook that's on our website. A gentleman in Connecticut about the same time, George Sommerfeld, who is a young 86 this year. He did independently some things, and then they got together and they swapped ideas and so forth. And John Leonidakis in California got involved in the 2016 time. And these independent efforts generated the desire to create a more SABR-wide effort that became this community of interest. And John and Monty Seeley in Central Texas kind of became the initial, along with George, the initial leaders. And as time has gone by, the leadership has transitioned. And today it's with Ann and I. We started independently in Cleveland and then found out about this bigger effort and hitched our wagon to it. And it's been nothing but a good ride because of the sharing and the inclusiveness and the learning and from each other, etc.
Yeah.
What's your background, Joe?
I worked a short career of 45 and a half years with NASA, starting as a researcher and then going into various levels of management, and retired as a senior executive in January of 2016. And around 2018, right before COVID, the other two people I've mentioned in general, their names are Ike Brooks and Dave Bodemer in our chapter, came to me and said, Joe, do you think our chapter might have an interest in doing something like this? And my mother passed away of Alzheimer's in 2000. So it took about 3 nanoseconds for me to say, yeah, I think we should do this. And that's how my ride and our ride in Cleveland got started. And it was a slow start. We weren't quite sure how to do this. We started learning from others. And then we were able to connect with the Alzheimer's Association in Cleveland. That was a seminal moment for us because then we got introduced to the training. We had a point of contact to work with who introduced us to the training, and they started recruiting people for us for the sessions. And as they say, the rest is history. And we're 2 years into it now and trying to continue to grow it and bring more people into it.
Is there anything else going on in Phoenix, Ann, that's different?
Well, we was started by Jennifer Blatt, who worked for the Diamondbacks for many years, and she actually has a company for or a teaching school for women's scouting, which is interesting. Jennifer, and then Johanna Wagner as well, and she's a consultant in baseball and works with a lot of minor and major leaguers. And she works also with SABR. And so they really were the key people that started this. And they again didn't have any knowledge about dementia per se, or no personal history, but they really wanted to serve and to help out. So they enlisted a couple of us. Scott Carter, who is the executive vice president of SABR, is on our team and has been since we got our partner, and myself. So there's only 4 of us right now. We are, the pandemic hit just as we were going to go forward. So that was kind of an issue, but we have a very good relationship with Banner Alzheimer's Institute, and they're affiliated with the Sun Health Research Institute. So they are a research-based program with medical care. It's a referral source for people who need expert care in dementia management. And they have a lot of support programs, and all of them now are really by Zoom. So that's, and it seems like that's going to be the way of the world for the time being anyway. So we were fortunate also that the person in outreach for their support groups he's a fanatic about baseball. He visits every major league stadium. So a lot of these people in healthcare, they have no idea what SABR is. So you're going to have to, explain about SABR, that we're not for profit. Certainly, we're all volunteer, and how big we are, So you have to gain the trust of the partner for sure. And that was something that we were able to do, that they saw that we could do this program, and we have the people behind it to do so. The one thing I also want to mention is that we try to stay away from calling it reminiscent therapy, because we're not therapists, we're not trained therapists. So we say reminiscent programs or something like that, because it's easy to just slide into therapy. So we want to make sure that we don't use that term per se. But what we did was, you really have to know what the needs of your partner are. So we actually did a pilot presentation to their staff, social workers, nurses, and they all said, "Oh, we love this." They really enjoyed it. We have a kind of a fast-moving program, but we can get into that a little bit. But we decided to have 2 seasons. So and we're on our 2nd year. So we have monthly sessions, February to May. And then we start up again July to October. So it kind of mimics the baseball, spring training and the baseball seasons. And that's how we also get some of our programs, what's going on, in baseball. So yeah, it works very well for us. We average about, maybe 6 couples at a time. And again, it is for mild to moderate stage dementia. And again, for anyone, and also people with what's called MCI, mild cognitive impairment. That's another term that you may hear. So that's where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm. I guess just trying to figure out, how do we just go ahead and start talking with the local Colorado chapter of the Alzheimer's Association and figure out who to talk to there to begin this process?
Oh, finding a partner is really critical. And certainly one of the things that we could offer, it may not go anywhere, but so far it has helped. Our Alzheimer's Association person in Cleveland has contacts throughout the country. And just last Friday, I asked her if she would be willing to help me get a contact for Alzheimer's in Chicago. And she said, "Yep, I happen to know so-and-so, and I can do that for you, Joe, no problem." And I can make a similar request of her if she knows somebody in the Denver area, and see if there's a connection there. Because one of the things that we found when we got started in the program, this lady, her name is Mary Ertel, was not a really big baseball fan. So when we were talking, she was listening, interested, but puzzled. And I could tell we were kind of talking past each other. And I said, Mary, how about I connect you with your equivalent in LA? And her name is Annie O. And Annie is really big time into this program. And I said, maybe it would help if just the two of you talked and Annie could share with you how she feels about it. And so she said, okay. So I set the call up. I was not there. I don't know what happened other than there was a switch flipped. And suddenly this was the best thing that she wanted to have happen. And now she talks about it as one of the best programs that Alzheimer's Cleveland is offering. So I think there is a little bit of goodness in having that connection, behind the scenes sort of thing that makes people feel better about who are these people reaching out to me and should I trust them?
Yeah. Yeah. Having that.
So we'll make that offer to you if you'd like to do that.
Yeah, I think for sure we'd like the connection. I have somebody here who's taken several of my baseball classes, actually 7 of them. And her husband has had Alzheimer's for 15 years, an extremely long time. And during that time, she's gotten to know people throughout this system really well. So she may be a really good bridge for us.
Yeah, the way we got started in the Farrell Foundation was there was a short TV segment about our program on the ABC local channel, 11 o'clock news, the sports portion. I guess it was a slow night. And the Farrell Foundation person saw it. And he calls the same lady, Mary Ertel, and says, hey, how do we get in on this action? This looks pretty cool. And that's how we got connected to Farrell Foundation. And the third one, the Brookdale, turns out that the daughter of one of the 3 of us actually was the program director there. So she invited her dad to come in and do these things. So that's how we were able to get 3 different sets of partners in activities going in Cleveland.
Well, one of you mentioned, I think, Brookdale Senior Living.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them in Colorado, and I assume across the nation. I wonder if you guys have talked about, in addition to Alzheimer's, maybe nationally or Brookdale, someone like Brookdale, where we could set up something nationally so it would be easier for new chapters in whatever location to plug into Brookdale memory care or something like that. So each city doesn't have to start from scratch, kind of.
Well, you're talking about kind of a top down versus what we've been talking about bottoms up. And I would say when we began our more in-depth conversations with Scott about the CEO, about growing this program, he desired and currently still desires for us to make some of those kinds of reach outs you're alluding to. And we had started to plan a strategy for that. And then John Leonidakis had to leave us. And so Ann and I are, I would call it, picking up the pieces. And we've kind of put some things aside, including the top-down approach that you're alluding to, Ken. We do want to do that. We just haven't done that. But it is on the to-do list, but there are only 2 of us and so many things to do. And some are nearer term things that must be done. And that top-down thing is left sitting on the to-do list. But your point's well taken.
Huge opportunity there.
A national partner in this area for SABR would be great. And Brookdale, I know, does a lot of memory work. It's not just solely memory work, but that's a big part of their.
Yes.
So we're with you. We're just not quite there yet. Again, when we're having to, I would not restart the program, but let's just say we're adjusting the program to John leaving us and Ann and I left standing. And one of the things that we have to do near term is find a 3rd member for our leadership triad. And things like that need to be given more immediate attention. But your point's well taken. We don't argue it other than it's timing.
And John had some discussions with some national organizations as well. don't think it
They
was
did,
Brookdale.
they haven't gone anywhere.
And they haven't gone
not
anywhere, no.
but-
No, they haven't, but
They were starting, but
they
yeah.
were. Mm-hmm.
Is the Alzheimer's Association national too, or is that kind of a hodgepodge?
Yeah. Well, it is. But there's been splinter groups that have left, so it's interesting, and they do communicate with each other, and it's a small community nationwide, so that's why they're a great resource to start with, I think.
Yeah, we were, when in Cleveland, very candidly, we were encouraged, work with your local group, get a relationship with them. If you try to shoot higher, you're going to spend a lot of time and maybe not have anything to show for it. You want to get started, build your relationship with the local group.
Yeah.
That's what we took that guidance, and that's that path we've taken.
I wonder if who had the connection with Brookdale. Is that in Cleveland?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they could contact like one of the, or Brookdale out here in Colorado or something.
Oh, I think it's a possibility. Sure, absolutely. Yeah, we'd be happy to explore that too. In fact, said Ike's daughter, Ike Brooks, who is one of my cohorts here, his daughter left Brookdale, but on good terms. So I think if you would like us to explore that connection, we can do that too.
And certainly in person is a whole new ball game, so that the training is critical. If you're doing in person in a residential memory care unit, you've got to have the staff there that can divert residents and can read their signs, that know the residents. So there's more, I want to say, some risk involved, and I think Kathy is agreeing with me that it's easy. Zoom is, you really have to have some knowledge.
You have to partner with the facility.
Yes, and make sure that things are really set up.
Are you saying that Zoom is easier to administer?
I think so, yes.
I would agree.
Program, but or in hybrid certainly, but yeah.
I mean, I think you could do within facility, but if you did that, you would be partnering with the facility and facility staff to do it. So you'd be going in with the, I can't imagine a scenario where an outside organization would go into a facility without being strongly partnered one-on-one with facility staff.
But
it's not going to happen.
There are issues. So I'll just say there can be issues, because staffing is not good in a lot of these facilities. And so yeah, Joe can attest to,
Yeah, I would just
real
say
world.
Our experiences at Brookdale have been very different than at Farrell Foundation. At Brookdale, the only thing the staff lady does is serves the hot dogs. Otherwise we're in it on our own. Okay, and that's just again, to Ann's point, it's a staffing problem. It's 4 young ladies running from hither and yon. So we're in it on our own, and it's worked fine. But at Farrell Foundation, they are very hands-on. In fact, they ask to review what we're going to be talking about. They help in setting the topical agenda and actually participate in some of the delivery of the things. So it's a tightly integrated thing, with them having a lot of direction to not only what's talked about, but how it's talked about. So two different experiences we've had.
And I wonder more about integrating into more support group environments versus. So even some of the facilities have support groups where it's with caregivers or with with patients. I say veterans because that's what patients. You're integrating into the support group environment, which is different than in an actual living setting, facility setting. And that's
what Banner is. It's a support group, and they had in-person support groups, and they had to go to Zoom. So that's essentially where the population that we are working with.
And I looked a little bit at some of the support groups available in the Denver metro area, and there are certainly in person as well as virtual support groups for multiple organizations. So that might be something else to look at.
Definitely.
You mean become part of an already existing structure, Kathy?
I think that initially, certainly that might be the way to go. That's why I was curious how these guys rolled theirs out, because you certainly want to learn from Joe and Ann about how they rolled out their programs, because they've been so successful. So that's why, and they're clearly rolling it into an integrated system already.
Yes. Yes.
And so we want to learn from them, because they're the experts.
Well, they have the clients, the participants. So we have the program and we handle that, but they actually do the PR. They do the Zoom call and get people on. So it takes a lot off of us in planning a program to have that partner.
Yeah,
I would disagree a little bit with Ann in the following way, that the Alzheimer's Association here, when we started asking, could we get more involved in this than just showing up and doing a show, so to speak, they were more than willing. And as I said, I had to go through the training, which included a background investigation and so forth. And, you know, it was nothing like the background investigation I had at NASA, so it was no big deal. But I went through all of those steps. And once I did, basically, and I don't want this to sound as negative as they couldn't hand the program off fast enough. They were quite happy for us to take on all of the responsibility, including now we're getting more involved in recruiting new people. In fact, we had a Guardians Fest last Saturday. 10,000 of your closest baseball fans showed up, and they printed a little one-page document on the Baseball Memories program that we handed out to people who showed interest. So we were out there marketing the program directly, and they're encouraging us to do more marketing. And back in February, schedules permitting, I'm going to be making a visit to our partner, the Cleveland Guardians, to talk about how they might consider helping us market the program more, because the conventional way hasn't produced as many people as any of us thought there would be out there, sadly. And so both us and the Alzheimer's group together say, we need to do this differently. We need to look more through the baseball lens than the conventional classical Alzheimer's lens. So that we're very involved. Now, very different than in the Farrell Foundation, where we do come and present the program to them on their turf, on their terms.
So the key is knowing your partner and what their needs are. Yeah.
Okay. And it might be starting one way and then expanding. So starting one way as we learn kind of the ropes and figure out how to do things.
Well, there's a word there, trust, right? That's what we're talking about. As you gain their trust, they're more willing, at least we've seen in all cases, to give more to you, more responsibility.
Yeah. So it evolves into something else.
And you know, we are very sensitive to the fact that we're out there with the SABR brand, right? We are promoting the SABR brand recognition, and that's a very important topic for Scott. And we were trying very hard to make this, as he's called it, a signature program of SABR, stand up to what that term means to us, and hopefully not just meet it, but exceed it.
Well, Joe, I can tell you as a national board member, we are 100% behind this program. I mean, completely. We just met like a month ago in Minneapolis, and you know, I mentioned that our chapter, the Rocky Mountain chapter, was gonna delve into this, and the other national board members were really excited that we had that kind of passion, that we had half of our board interested, and I will end up probably being the champion on the board and really push this. Just because I see the value. I was just the newbie board member and I had to kind of lay back, but I did have a question for you. Have you guys ever approached MLB Network Radio, MLB Network?
Funny you ask.
I'm just wondering, because those are platforms with a lot of lonely people listening to TV, listening to the satellite. And I have huge contacts there that might be able to get us a little bit more on people's radar.
Well, Ann's laughing because the end of this month or next month, there will be an article about the program by an MLB writer for the website.
Yep.
And Michael has said that he would love to help us get additional connections within MLB to get a higher level of visibility for this program. So, Dan, anything that you could do that would help would be greatly appreciated. I told Ann at our weekly leaders meeting, my goal this will probably sound crazy, but when I go out to the analytics conference in March, a few years ago, Brian Kenny signed his book for me and gave me a lot of crap about wearing Yankees stuff. And it was a lot of fun. But I figured, okay, I can drag that book out and his signature and say, hey, I got something for you might be interested in. So anything that you could do to help us get this visibility. And John Leonidakis is kind of our spokesperson for this sort of thing. He's very articulate. He's professionally trained. He's a Hollywood film producer. What's not to like about all of that stuff? So we would love to have that opportunity to get this higher level of visibility. And I think that benefits not only our program, but SABR properly done.
Oh, certainly.
The other question I had for Ann and Joe, has the Iowa chapter been at all immersive in this project?
Not to my knowledge. There might be somebody from the chapter who signed up for the community of interest, but not to my knowledge, no.
So my reason for asking, just full disclosure, I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the Field of Dreams.
Oh.
And I've got a venue that is a magnet for families with dementia and issues that bring a lot of people to the field. Kath and I have had so many people come to the field knowing their loved one is, on the verge of really being distant. And they want to have that last trip.
That last game of catch. It's amazing.
So I'm thinking, that we could use our vehicle in Dyersville to gain some recognition and drive some awareness about the program. And I am, full throttle on this. And I think just thinking about, the Iowa chapter is not very engaged. They meet once a year. And I'm actually scheduled to speak with them in about a month because I want them to come to our place for a meeting. So I'm just thinking if we could do something that would gain a lot of publicity and awareness.
That'd be great.
I could get a sponsor, I think, pretty easily.
And I'm thinking, we've seen a couple of couples like playing catch, 85-year-old couples playing catch on the field as it's like their bucket list, right?
Yeah.
We could get pictures of that and things.
Oh, gosh.
Think about the publicity and how cool that would be. Because it's, Danny and I have walked off the field in tears a few times.
I'm getting chills.
It's amazing. It's an incredible experience for us, and we're there every day in the summer sometimes.
And you get the chills. I'm typing on United to get the flights.
So I think we should think about how we could use that as a way to really get some people thinking about it. It's such when we get in the winter, we kind of forget about how emotional it is there in the summer, but it is so incredibly amazing when we're there.
We get a couple a day of people every day who show up with their loved one. They want to go around the bases, they take photos, and then the individual has a problem, just lapses, and they realize their time is up. And
they tell you their story, and you get to hear that. And if we could share some of those stories, and they're very willing to share. They're very willing to share them.
Well, maybe this is a good time. We Bruce McClure is our lead for social media, and you're kind of telling the kinds of things that Bruce will be on the phone trying to get from you as soon as we call him.
Like we should do some kind of a story project. In a way. If there's a way that we could draw people there to tell their stories and then share them, it would be really cool. I can't wait.
Hey, Dan.
Chris.
Dan, wouldn't that kind of work nice towards maybe like a week before the national convention in Chicago?
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. We've already been talking.
As you're leading into the SABR National Convention in Chicago.
Yes. So let's keep this between us, but we're strategizing, bringing people to the field, either the beginning of the convention or the end, putting them in buses. It's a 2-hour and 45-minute ride, and doing a day at the field. And what I wrote down in my book a little while ago, and Chris, jogged my memory a little bit, is that Scott Bush and I are trying to figure out what we could do to make it a memorable 2-3 hours in Dyersville, and then put them on the bus back to Chicago. And this might be something we could do.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm wondering if we can steal kind of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which is always for kids. We do something like that for kids. Seniors with dementia have something like that program where they can win.
They do. Hospice is, a lot of people don't think of hospice as, in palliative care. But, people are hopefully getting into hospice care earlier than, their last week. And our local Hospice of the Valley has a huge building and support groups for people with dementia in the community. So you don't think of hospice as being a possible contact for you, but it is.
Let's definitely think about that a little bit.
I think Well, what can we, Ann and I, do to support you, to help you moving forward? I'm quite happy to reach out to Brookdale and see if we can get that connection. Alzheimer's Association, see if we can get that connection. Beyond that, what can we do to help you start moving forward?
Well, one of my questions is, you've provided, and I'll show people this is a 20-page, this is your playbook. I haven't read through it, but I printed it off last night. I also have a couple of other documents, characteristics of a good reminiscence volunteer and how to start a talking baseball program, which is what the Central Texas folks refer to as their program in your community. I think, one of our things is before we talk to potential partners, we have to have our act together a little bit to know exactly what we want to say to them, because we certainly don't want to go in and look like we don't know anything and then lose credibility rather than gain credibility. So my advice or my question to you is, what's the best way for us to become competent enough to start working with folks?
Could I mention something? We have a relationship with the Alzheimer's Foundation of America. Have you ever heard of that? They are going on, every year they go on a Educating America tour. And guess what? They're going to be in Denver, May 17th. They're kicking it off February 16th here in Phoenix. And they've offered SABR and our chapter 10 minutes. So we'll be ending the program with a little bit about baseball memories, and I'll be speaking to them. And I think they probably will have about 120 folks coming. So I would advise you to get on their mailing list. They have an excellent free publication. They really focus on caregivers and education about dementia. So there'll be a physician speaking, the head of the director of AARP, that's another resource for you. Will be speaking, as well as a nurse practitioner and myself. So it's a good organization for education. And there'll be—
I think one of the other, along the lines, complementing what Ann said, one of the other things that we could offer is if one of you would like to sit in on a session, I can work to try to make that happen over the next month or so. I mean, and when is your next session?
We are meeting at 11 a.m. February 8th. So by Zoom. So anyone is welcome. Probably, you know, maybe if we rotate, because we'll be doing February, March, April, May, but, you know, 2 or 3 folks, if they're interested in tuning in and observing, and we'll, you know, we have participation too. So we go around and everyone introduces themselves, their favorite player, their favorite team. We're going to be doing some memorabilia, asking people to do that. And
are you Mountain Time at this point?
Arizona time. So I don't know.
No. Are you Pacific or Mountain?
We're Mountain. Yeah.
All right. Because
what time is it there now? It's 9:15 here.
Then you're yeah,
we're the same until daylight saving time kicks in.
Till daylight saving. Okay. Yeah, it's confusing. Yeah.
So
11 a.m.
11 on February 8th.
Yep. So Wednesday.
And we can, the dates are still a little bit flexible here, but we've got about a week later, we have one with Alzheimer's Cleveland. We could offer, it's a smaller group, but we could offer a slot there. And just to forewarn you, the way we introduce people is that we say, let's pick on you, Greg, that you're the guy coming. We just indicate to the people that we have a rich farm system. And we promoted one of our top rookies to come up to the major leagues to sit on our bench today. Now he won't get in the game, but he'll be there kind of watching how the big leaguers play, and we may see him play in future months, that sort of thing. And they always get a big laugh out of that. So we try to do everything with a kind of a baseball flavor. And then I think it's the end of March is when I'm pinch hitting in LA. So I don't know the exact date, but if I can send the 2 dates for you, and we could also do the Farrell Foundation. It's hybrid, but I don't think it would be as good of an experience, but I'll offer that also. We could bring somebody in on that one, because we did Bruce's wife, Molly. She sat in on that. So 3 offerings from Cleveland we could give you.
Well, that'd be great. I think one thing just to explain to everybody from our group is that I don't know whether everybody heard this, but Farrell Foundation is local. So this isn't an organization that we can tap into, just FYI, folks.
I think the 4 of us from Rocky Mountain SABR could have a meeting after this to say next steps. And I think it would be very helpful if you 2 could maybe jot down some bullets. Okay, here are 5 things you guys need to get your act together, as Greg alluded to, before we go out in the community. Like for our meeting, you know, here's a list of things you guys should chat about at your first meeting to get started. Maybe 5 bullets like that. Maybe it's in that handbook that Greg showed or not, but I think it would be good for us to have a meeting after this, and then to specifically address, you know, 3 or 4 key points that would help us launch.
Yeah, I think we ought to do our homework.
Read up. Yeah.
And we'd be happy to come back together with you for round 2 if you want to have some follow-on conversation. Well, lots of topics have been brought up here today, and we're very happy to continue this dialogue in support of you. We want you to have the ownership, obviously, but we're there to help. I used to like to say, well, I'm from the government, I'm here to help, and people ran in the opposite direction as fast as they could. But since I'm no longer a government employee, I can say that with a complete smile on my face.
So who's interested in joining us in Phoenix? And I'll make sure you get the link, the Zoom invitation. Anyone available?
What time was that again?
11 a.m.
February 8th?
Mountain. February 8th.
I think I might be able to work that in.
Greg?
I can do it, yeah.
Greg, who else can?
I'm on an airplane at that time.
Right.
And Greg, I'll send you the dates and times for the other ones as they firm up in Cleveland. So
okay, and I'll distribute it. I'll distribute it.
That's okay. Yeah.
Do you only want one person? You've mentioned a couple.
Well, I think I learned this from John. He was always very sensitive when he would do LA to not have too many strange faces in any one meeting. And so he said, Joe, we try to keep it to a couple visitors max per meeting. I've learned that from the master, so I try to keep that.
Yeah,
Well, Joe, we have all been accused of having strange faces, so we.
Okay, so I'm hearing from you, we should read this stuff. There are videos, by the way, and I haven't. I listened to one whole video last night where, or watched where you honored, or Jim Denton was honored from Texas, and skipped some of it, but certainly saw how much they appreciated what he's done down there. They now have 4 sites, Kerrville and San Antonio. They started in Austin, and there's one more. And I haven't seen your presentations in Chicago yet, but that would be good. And if your presentation to the Alzheimer's Foundation is videoed,
it might be,
or even if somebody take it, that would be interesting for us if we try to get on their docket to see what you present.
Yeah, it's mainly based on it's for caregivers primarily, and some healthcare providers, but their focus is educating caregivers. Yeah. And it's a great organization. So John also was interviewed by our local KJZZ. So we're waiting for that, and we'll send that along to you about the program. So,
and those
that was yesterday.
Joe brought up too. We haven't seen, or I look for those. We didn't see anything about Europe and.
I'll dig out the URL for the longer, the extended, the 23-minute version of the baseball.
Yeah.
I'll get that.
Yeah, I remember seeing it on the website too, and learning more about it that way too.
Yeah.
I saw the 23-minute video was great, especially with them playing catch with wiffle balls and stuff.
Yeah.
I only saw the 3-minute video.
Yeah. So. That's good.
Well, there's another one we can send you. There was an LA TV short about the LA Alzheimer's session, and it's a very good one too.
I might have sent that.
I think
shows
I sent that.
That one's worth looking at.
Yeah.
We use that in the Baltimore convention as one of our promo videos.
Well, let me ask our group, do we need to meet next after maybe we look at this material as a next step?
Yeah, I think we meet in the next 10 days and we discuss what we've heard, what we've seen, and what we plan.
I like that idea.
Yeah. And I think the key is really only having one person dealing with the partner once you so that you don't have multiple people arranging, that relationship. I think it's helpful.
And that might be a different person with different partners.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, that's
one
exactly the way we work in Cleveland. I'm the one with the Alzheimer's Association, and Ike Brooks is the one with Farrell Foundation. And, but we talked. We were on the phone this morning for an hour comparing notes. So it's the same message, but delivered by one person, not the multiplicity of people.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to plan to meet again, and I could certainly see that we might want you back as we have some ideas to get your thoughts about those.
Okay.
That's if Ann can drag herself back into the scoreboard there at Fenway.
You know where I am.
That's what I was just going to bring up. She's at the corner of Kenmore and Lansdowne in one of the most glorious spots in baseball right there. That is, honestly, that is one of the coolest things that I've done in my lifetime, is be inside there.
I haven't been inside, but unfortunately.
Was that cooler than Wrigley?
Yeah, because it was the middle of batting practice the first time I did it, Greg, and balls are coming off the wall and you're inside there, and the entire thing reverberates. It's so loud. And, I could shout out to my teammates throughout batting practice. They couldn't figure out where I was coming from. You know, I was behind a number, and then I was changing our lineup. I was terrible. I did some really awful things the first time, and it was a blast because they had guys hitting fourth that hadn't played all year. And, you know, the doors are open because visiting BP is going on. It was a blast. It was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to grow up now.
And is your signature there?
It is.
Oh, good. Okay.
It's towards the top. I had one of our bigger players hoist me up so I could write somewhere, and you guys might figure out who that was. But he put me towards the top, and I wrote it so nobody could write over it.
Does this to me periodically?
Yeah, he's a rather large humanoid. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful.
No, we know who you're talking about.
Yeah, Albert Bell. Such a good.
Oh, Albert.
No. No chance, no. Well, guys, I think this is for me, and Greg's taken the lead on this, but I think, I mean, our chapter will fully support this. And as I told Greg in an email the other day, as the president of the chapter, I'm going to steer this hard. But I'm also looking at this as gaining more momentum from a national perspective and from a national board perspective. And just what I just, you know, sat in on for the last hour and a half helps me in terms of awareness. We have a board meeting on Monday night for the national group. And I'm going to mention that, you know, we've got to be out there more, especially with the demographics of our membership. We're at the highest point we've ever been, almost 8,000. And it's time for us to be a little reflective about who comprises our SABR membership, because it's inevitable that we're going to have a lot of issues within our group. And let's use this as a vehicle to really get people more aware.
Well, also we can use this internally in SABR, Dan, where as our aging membership unfortunately takes on some of these issues, we can have internal groups to support our own members.
Yeah,
totally agree.
Definitely. Yep.
Well, we have to set up a meeting then, and I like your idea of trying to do it within 10 days or so, Dan, so that it's fresh. If we let it go, we could let it go, and we don't want to do that. So
I'd like to have it. I'd like to have it before our next board meeting. I mean, our next chapter meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send out an email asking folks what time might work. I think we'll look at morning for starters, and then try to figure out whether a week from today or a week from Monday, something like that, would work. So,
are you folks doing anything for SABR Day? Because I'm going to have 10 minutes, 5 or 10 minutes at our our chapter meeting on February 4th here in Phoenix. So that's another opportunity to let people know what's up, maybe, or at least about the program is available. That's a thought.
I don't know whether that works with this SABR Day, does it, Dan?
I don't know. Just for the two of you, for Joe and Ann, we're hosting an event on Sunday the 5th. We're going to a local facility run by a former big leaguer, and we're going to showcase instruction of high school, collegiate, and pro players, but we're going to incorporate analytics and measurements and the tools throughout it, giving everybody 2 hours to heighten their awareness. We have a group that really isn't, for the most part, very aware of how analytics work. And this was a way that we thought we could encourage people to better understand. We've had a real good feedback on it so far. And the guy who runs the facility and I have been kind of working behind the scenes as to how this is going to look. But I don't know that the forum is going to be
not for that. No.
So I think we'll probably do it at our next chapter meeting, the third Wednesday in March.
Yes, definitely.
February, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll want to have our little internal meeting first to get our act and.
Oh yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but I like, thanks for bringing that up, because it could be that at a future Sabre Day meeting, I mean, this is very different from
It's
anything
too early. Yeah.
we've done. Yes, well, right.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
2 weeks away.
And it's so unique, really, that people don't understand, what we're doing,
Well, this is who we want to be.
Get the word out.
We want to be active in the community, using baseball as a vehicle to improve people's lives.
Yeah.
And this just fits for us so well in what we're trying to do.
Yeah, both as a chapter and I would guess as Sabre writ large, Dan, because that both have a very low profile in the general public's mind, and we maybe rightly so, because we pretty much stuck in a lane, and I don't know that we're well known for anything but that. So I think this is a wonderful possibility of us doing some good, and Joe's gone, but
yeah, he's gone.
I'm really impressed. He just sort of slipped away, but impressed by what all of you have done, and I hope we can even begin to do as well.
And I could tell you that we've had, being at Sabre 50, we have had a lot of interest from other chapters as well that are just as interested as you and are moving forward. So
okay, well, we'll be in touch. I guess you'll be in touch.
Thank you. I'm gonna hop off and you can continue your discussion. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thanks for your time.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Well, do we want to set up a time to meet, guys and girl?
Lady. She's more a lady. I don't date girls.
I'm sorry, but if we're a guy.
Remember Kurt Wells said she's my date. Right?
Oh, I'm sorry, a date.
She's my date.
It's like a one-time thing,
Jeez.
I guess it was.
I got to rethink that.
I guess it was a good deal, right? Because it's been a couple times since then, right?
Yeah, you just haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
You didn't spend any money on her today. This is wonderful. So happy you joined us, Kathy, and think that there's a real, I hope you think there's a potential.
I think this is awesome. And he's going to have me in his ear about this because I think it's such a great idea. I think it's going to be terrific.
Yeah, what a great idea to have a partner.
You know what I like about it is I think we've got some people in our chapter that are already showing signs. And Chris, you alluded to your dad. And there's some other guys that we all know have some trouble. And I think if we can make it okay for more people, we're doing our job, but we're also branching out and not talking about, this week in baseball history and the Rockies bullpen. We're doing something that makes a difference in the community. And I think that rocks. I mean, that's just who we want to be.
Well, and I think that there's a few other things that I think you guys could work on too. I mean, I think you guys have the baseball museum here, right?
Yep.
And I think
the
ballpark museum. And I think you could use that to create maybe some materials that could be used nationally. Yeah. So if you were able to come up with, some things that other sites could use, some pictures and some, you could come up with, I was thinking about how we met Carrie, who spoke to talk about the Japanese internment baseball things. I mean, there's different things that you could create resources. If we're going to work on this, like if you guys are going to work on this at a national sort of thing that you want this to go national, you could create some resources on like, here is like a packet on the Japanese internment baseball thing that would be something interesting to some of your different baseball people.
Yeah.
Here's something on a different topic about baseball that then all of the different chapters that have a group that do it could then pull that file. And if they were doing a talk with a group, they would have a file at their ready that they wouldn't have to prepare, right? Especially if you're doing it via Zoom and you're showing pictures on a Zoom platform. If you've got those pictures in a file that's all ready to go, and all you have to do is pull up that file and lead a discussion and it's all ready.
We also have the Rucker Archive, which I've already got access to. That's 85,000 digital photos. that's at our, disposal. We can use that at any time.
So you come up with a couple, you come up with 10 topics that are really interesting I don't know anything about baseball. Danny knows that about me. But you come up with 10 topics that are really interesting for baseball fanatics, right? And you make 10 sort of packages of information that would be interesting. And you do that over the next year or whatever. And then those are readily available to the groups that are rolling out these discussions. And then all they do is they open up a computer file for the virtual conference that they're leading, and they share it, and it's just ready to go for discussion.
My guess is that not everybody we're going to talk to, though, is going to be a baseball fanatic. They're going to be people with baseball memories that just...
it might just be baseball memories. It might be, who's this in baseball, or who's this?
But if you end up with something about Mickey Mantle, given the age group of something, a Mickey Mantle is going to bring memories, or maybe
pictures.
Maybe it's a big deal, or maybe it's
Willie Mays, or we have a set of pictures in our clinic in Denver that have a picture of Lou Gehrig, and that brings out, for our veterans, they talk about it.
Well, it brings out a disease too that they may be able to identify with, and of course we've got a guy in our chapter with similar. I'm blanking on the word, but he's got so many illnesses and is so debilitated and continuing to get more debilitated that may be an issue too. He's a VA person, Kathy.
Is he? Yeah, but you could come up with a few sort of packets of pictures and things to lead discussions, so that you don't have to think about it ahead of time, and people don't have to plan ahead of time. All they kind of have to do is open up this little packet. It's got pictures of the baseball, the different pictures of things that just lead the discussion to make it easy and fun. And you have so many things at your disposal with all the national members. You could even have a video clip of, think about the people that Danny, that could do a video clip or things, and you could make a really fun thing that you could share. And I don't know. There's a lot of different things you could do, but you've got this great package and great resources that'll be just wonderful. And then I do think eventually, if you guys get things going, I could probably come up with some connection within the VA. I'm trying to think of how to do that, but I think, again, nationally, it's probably within rec therapy, but there's probably a way to do it. But I wouldn't want to do it until we get it really up and going and doing well. But that would be
we'd want to do it. We'd want to have a local success story.
Exactly.
Tried to bring it.
A local success. You want California to be going well, and us locally to be doing well, and have it running and everything. But then I think that might be positive too.
And we've got the financial resources. We've got so much money in the bank, and we don't use it. And frankly, between us, we're getting shit from national because we shouldn't have that much money in the bank as a nonprofit. So we could utilize some of those resources for some of the things we might need to really propel this in the right direction.
Are we able to spend it yet?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I thought we were going to get just a Zoom connection of our own and not need SABR.
Well, yeah, because we couldn't spend the money for a while, so we couldn't do it.
But
so I'm going to do two things. I'm going to do a Zoom, and then I'm going to do a microphone. I'm going to add a microphone for our meetings at BST.
Great.
So,
how about a date? Can we set up a date with this group?
Yeah, you guys need to set up a date, and then I'm whisking him away, because what you don't know is that today is Dan Evans' birthday.
Whoa!
And I want to take him out to a really nice late breakfast, and we're going to have a little fun before he has to do a little bit of work. So I want to whisk him away.
Oh, a date.
Yes.
That's right. Exactly.
It's the third one, guys. It's our third date.
All right.
Our third 1000th date. I'm going to be the troublesome one on the calendar. So
he's always the troublesome one on the calendar.
So you guys throw some days here, and
I got to run to a meeting, but Greg, could you just circulate a thing and we throw out dates at work, or you throw out dates? Or
that's fine.
Okay, because
I can do that. Do we have days of the week that are better than others? Ken. Goodbye, Ken.
Yeah, if you can.
Danny, what about you?
There is no good day right now. So it's
around him.
Tell us what you got coming up, Dan. Give us some dates.
Yeah, I'll throw you some days. This next 5 weeks is a nightmare for me. So, you know, we're actually going to see each other more in Iowa than we will here.
Don't talk about it. I don't want to hear it.
It sucks. So I'll throw you some days.
Yeah, you start out by giving us some dates, and we'll work around that.
I will.
All right.
You got it. Good job. And Greg, do you want to be? Who wants to be the point person on this as is? I mean, how between Chris, Greg, who wants to be the point, or do you want to share it? How do you want to do this?
How do you want to do it, Chris?
You know, I'm thinking we probably want to try and share it at least at first, just so we have a better idea of trying to build this. You know, especially considering, you know, I'm down in the Springs and everybody else is up in Denver. That's a little bit more of a challenge for me. But, you know, I'd be willing to try and help out as best as I can, you know, however we can do this. Yeah.
And Chris, Kathy pointed out yesterday, between the Springs and Pueblo, we've got lots of opportunities down there for people who are affiliated with the service. And there's a couple different resources there that you mentioned. So this, you know, we've talked about this a lot, guys. You know, let's not be as Denver centric, and let's think about getting into Pueblo, getting into Fort Collins, getting into the Springs with this type of outreach. I mean, this is one way for us to grow as a chapter, but also contribute to the region.
And you might get more people joining SABR with caregivers and family members because you increase visibility.
And virtually they can join us. Yeah. They don't have to be in person.
Right. Okay.
All right.
No, we got a lot to think about.
All right, gang. I'm going to go have breakfast with my girl.
All right. You two have a great day.
You will. We always do.
Thanks for doing this. Thanks for setting this up, guys.
All right. So long.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. I'll end this somehow.